Amazon FSx for Lustre is a service that provides cost-effective, high-performance, scalable file systems for compute workloads. Integrated with Amazon S3, FSx for Lustre makes it easy to process S3 datasets with a high-performance file system. In this demo, we'll see how to create an FSx for Lustre file system and link it to our S3 buckets, allowing us to keep our S3 objects and file system content synchronized automatically. Let's begin by creating the file system from the Amazon FSx service page. We'll select Amazon FSx for Lustre and click Next. Let's call our file system FSx Demo and configure its storage and throughput settings. We'll give it 2.4 TB of storage capacity on a persistent SSD file system with 1000 megabytes per second per TB of throughput, which equates to 2400 megabytes per second. For the VPC security group, we'll choose the FSx Demo security group, which was created ahead of this demo. This security group is configured to allow TCP access on the required Lustre traffic ports from an existing EC2 instance that we'll be using to mount the file system. Under Data Repository Import/Export, we'll check this box to indicate that this file system will be used to link to an S3 data repository. This disables automatic backups, which are not allowed on file systems linked to S3 buckets, as your S3 buckets are still the primary storage location for the full dataset. In the logging card, we can choose to log failures and warnings in Amazon CloudWatch logs so that we'll have visibility into any issues that arise when importing from or exporting to the linked S3 bucket. After clicking Next, we confirm our settings and click Create File System. And in just a few minutes, the file system is ready. Now, let's open up our new file system in the console and link up our S3 buckets from the Data Repository tab. Links to S3 buckets, or prefixes within those buckets, are called Data Repository Associations, or DRAs, and a file system can have multiple DRAs. Let's create 2 of them. The file system path is a directory on the file system under the mount target directory that will be mapped one-to-one with the S3 bucket or the specified prefix on the S3 bucket. We'll enter /DRA1 as the directory name and link this directory to the sample prefix in an existing S3 bucket called fsx-demo-bucket. We also have the option to load metadata for S3 objects in the data repository after the link is created, which will populate the file system with file metadata and directory listings for the objects in the S3 bucket. We'll skip the option to load metadata for S3 objects in favor of using a data repository task later. This can be advantageous if you plan to use only a subset of the files under the prefix initially. The default automatic import and export policies will keep the file system and the S3 bucket synchronized with each other by automatically importing updates from S3 and automatically exporting updates on the file system to the linked S3 bucket. We'll leave this configuration as it is. Now that the first DRA is created, we'll quickly create the second one. The process is the same as before, except this time we'll use DRA2 as the directory name and we'll link it to an existing S3 bucket called FSx Demo Results Bucket. We'll use this second DRA as a target for some file system operations that we'll run later on. Let's mount our new file system onto an EC2 instance and see how everything looks. If we open the file system in the console and click Attach, we'll see instructions on how to do so. First, we switch over to our existing EC2 instance running Amazon Linux 2 and install the open source Lustre client. Then, we create a directory to use as the mount target. And finally, we copy and paste the mount command from the earlier screen. Now that the file system is mounted, we can see both of our buckets under the /fsx directory. However, they both seem to be empty. This is because we haven't actually loaded any of the bucket metadata yet. Let's switch back to the console really quick to take care of that. We'll select both DRAs and click Import Task. For the FSx Demo bucket, we'll have it import metadata from the prefix sample/input, and for the FSx Demo Results bucket, we'll have it import metadata from the output prefix. Since we enabled logging when creating the file system earlier, we can leave the completion report option disabled, as any errors in the import process will be recorded in CloudWatch logs. The required metadata has now been imported into the file system. Let's go back to our EC2 instance. Great, now we can see all of the files from the sample/input prefix in the FSx Demo bucket. Let's make some changes on the S3 side. We'll upload a new file to the S3 bucket, upload a new version of readme.txt, and delete the deleteme.txt file. Looking at the file system again, we see that the deleteme.txt file is gone, newfile.txt has been added, and readme.txt now says hello world instead of the previous sample text. This synchronization works both ways. Let's move the readme.txt file to the /fsx/dra2/output directory, which is linked to the FSX demo results bucket and is currently empty. The readme.txt file has disappeared from the first bucket and is now in the results bucket. And finally, if we modify the readme.txt file on the file system, we can see our changes reflected when we download it from the S3 bucket in the AWS console. To learn more about Amazon FSX for Luster's integration with Amazon S3, visit aws.amazon.com/fsx/Luster.